Ballina.
Thank you, Mr Acting Speaker. I rise to speak on this important legislation. This legislation reflects the complete loss of a social and moral licence to continue greyhound racing in New South Wales, and is something that the Greens, and in particular the late Honourable John Kay, have fought for over many years. The Greens commend the Premier for this decision and all those who are supporting the legislation and for having the courage to take action. The reason we've fought for this and the reason that we are single-pointed on this issue is because of the appalling and inhumane facts surrounding the industry that are well known, were horrendously highlighted by the Special Commission of Inquiry and that have become evident in this debate. The Greens get that Labor sees itself as fighting an ideological battle on behalf of working class people. The Greens accept that it is a difficult legacy to let go of for racing families who have loved their dogs and who have been let down by the industry. But the facts that emerged from the Special Commission of Inquiry shifted this debate and the ultimate decision to ban the industry from 2017 well outside of any ideology. It shifted this debate beyond ideas to a stark unveiling of a reality and a picture of torture and animal cruelty and injury and dog deaths on a scale that is unprecedented and intolerable in a 21st century society such as ours. The facts that have emerged take this debate far from ideology to a line in the sand about the kind of people we are and the kinds of communities that we would stand by and allow this barbarism, animal cruelty, to continue for the sake of gambling. The idea that the Special Commission of Inquiry was not a broad enough investigation to trigger such a decision is nonsense. The Commission's investigation spread to almost every aspect of the greyhound racing industry in New South Wales and required the Commission to investigate aspects of the industry in other states and other countries. They examined 43 witnesses over 11 days of private hearings, 26 witnesses in 10 days of public hearings, considered 1,143 submissions that were made to the New South Wales Parliamentary Select Committee in 2013 and had the benefit of reading the 2 reports issued by that committee. In the course of its inquiry, the Commission received and reviewed over 151,000 pages of documentary material and over 115 hours of videos and other recordings from widespread sources, including greyhound racing industry participants and representative organisations. This is an industry that has grown beyond the dog races of my grandfather's ilk and is in its contemporary form doomed to kill and injure thousands of dogs a year, and that denies healthy dogs from being rehomed because of the damage to their temperament from the barbaric practice of live baiting. The normal life expectancy of a greyhound is between 12 and 15 years. Over the last 12 years, 97,783 dogs were whelped in New South Wales. Currently, there are about 6,809 registered greyhounds. A greyhound is eligible to be registered when it is 12 months old. Absent death through misadventure or illness, the average life expectancy of a greyhound indicates that another 90,974 greyhounds should still be alive. Some pups that were whelped in the last 18 months may be within litters, being reared, broken in, or in pre-race training and not registered. However, even assuming that none of these juvenile animals, approximately 10,253, has been destroyed, where are the remaining 80,721 greyhounds? What happened to them? Some of them will have found homes outside the greyhound racing industry or been exported interstate or to other countries, or been retained by their owners as pets or breeders, or died of natural or accidental causes. But the evidence before the Commission indicated that at least 50,000 of those whelped, and perhaps up to 70,000 of them, were deliberately killed simply because they never were or no longer were capable of being competitive racing greyhounds. That is to say, of the 97,783 greyhounds that were bred in New South Wales in the last 12 years, the evidence suggests that somewhere between 49,000 and 70,000 dogs were killed because they were too slow to pay their way or were unsuitable for racing. The Greens are compelled by the assertion of the inquiry that greyhounds racing New South Wales are concerned about the number of healthy dogs being destroyed each year, but that addressing the mass slaughters are beyond the industry's capability. The reason for this is that the industry in New South Wales presently needs, and without a dramatic reduction of the race meetings that it holds, will probably continue to need 6,000 or more greyhounds to be whelped each year to maintain its racing schedules. However, the industry cannot and will not be able to find homes for somewhere between 50 and 70% of these dogs. As the Australian Working Dog Alliance reported, if greyhounds are unable to deliver financial rewards, their demise is probable. Indeed, death at an early age is the likely fate of most of the dogs that never make it to the racetrack. I highlight the fact that this, Mr Acting Speaker, is coming from the research of the industry's peak body itself. In recent years, Greyhound Racing New South Wales, like the controlling bodies of greyhound racing in other states and territories, has attempted to reduce wastage rates, principally by the rehoming of greyhounds. But these efforts have not been successful. They've only rehomed 593 greyhounds through its Greyhounds as Pets program since 2007 at a cost of $200,000 a year. The Commission estimates that given the already taxed facilities of potential rehoming organisations, this is extremely fraught, and there has been no evidence of a viable plan. In evidence before the Select Committee in 2013, Dr Karen Cunnington of the Greyhound Rehoming Centre said that even if only 50% of the dogs being bred in New South Wales each year were trained for rehoming, the cost of the training would be up to $60 million. This indicates that rehoming the number of dogs that are being bred is not a viable proposition. I do want to commend the RSPCA and Greyhound Rescue for the amazing work that they do to rehome greyhounds, and I urge everyone who can to adopt or foster a greyhound through Greyhound Rescue or to donate, sponsor or volunteer. We know from the inquiry as to dog deaths on tracks that the Greyhound Racing New South Wales policy was until very recently such that information was not to be included in the stewards' reports. This was a calculated stance on the part of that regulator. It was intended to prevent the public, including persons who may be critical and of the greyhound racing industry, such as animal welfare organisations, from obtaining information about the number and frequency of deaths of greyhounds on New South Wales racetracks. As to the misreporting of injuries, the Commission found that in April 2013, Greyhound Racing New South Wales management adopted a policy of sanitising and misreporting the description of injuries recorded in stewards' reports. The Commission had no doubt that the reason the management adopted this policy was to avoid criticism of the industry in New South Wales, particularly by animal welfare groups. This was in 2013. Live baiting. We witnessed as a community in February last year graphic and disturbing footage of live animals, including rabbits, possums and piglets, being in effect mauled and killed by greyhounds at the command of their trainers. It's estimated that 10 to 20% of greyhound trainers in New South Wales engage in live baiting. It's typically viewed as raising animal cruelty and welfare issues in respect of the animal that is being used as the bait, such as the terrified rabbit. However, what is less appreciated is the adverse effect that live baiting can have on a greyhound's future well-being. For a significant number of greyhounds, the exposure to live baiting can permanently alter them by introducing increased predatory aggression. This adds significantly to the difficulties in being able to successfully rehome the greyhound after the end of its very short 365-day racing career, and that's if it doesn't have an injury. The existence of the practice of live baiting severely taints the greyhound racing industry in New South Wales, both because of the barbaric cruelty involved to both bait animals and to the future of dogs bred in this way. To conclude, Mr Acting Speaker, the history of legislation over the last 200 years shows an increasing recognition by the civilised world that without strong legislative intervention and vigilant supervision by regulatory bodies, greyhound coursing and racing inevitably fosters cruel and barbaric treatment of animals, including the vast majority of greyhound themselves. My grandfather loved the horses too. He loved the dogs, but the industry as it is today is not the industry that he loved. Live baiting is only one of the barbarous practices that have been historically associated with greyhound coursing and racing. The deaths and injuries of tens of thousands of healthy dogs every year is the other. We commend the bill to the House.
The question is, if this bill